Welcome back to Late Night Stories. There is a specific kind of terror that only strikes when you are completely alone. It's the creeping realization that the sanctuary you call home has been breached, and the locks on your doors are nothing more than an illusion. Tonight, we have 3 chilling accounts of isolation turning into absolute nightmares. Turn off the lights, lock your doors, and settle in. Back in 2023, I lived through a weekend that shattered my sense of security forever. Before this happened, I didn't mind being home alone. But now, I refuse to spend the night by myself anywhere. At the time, my fiancé, Ryan, and I were desperate to escape our apartment lease. Through a family connection, we scored an unbelievable month-to-month deal on a beautiful house. The catch? The previous tenants, an elderly couple, had both passed away inside the home just weeks apart. The husband suffered a fatal heart attack in the basement, and shortly after, his wife took a lethal fall in the living room. Ryan, the ultimate skeptic, brushed off the grim history, thrilled by the cheap rent. But I am highly sensitive to energy, and the house felt heavy. To make matters worse, a dark blood stain lingered on the ugly tan carpet in the living room until the owner finally replaced the flooring with fresh paint, new hardwood floors, and a highly annoying but reassuring automated security system that announced every open door. I slowly began to let my guard down. A month in, Ryan left for a weekend bachelor party. I was alone with our cattle dog, Rex. Friday night, everything felt wrong. The air was thick with anxiety. Around midnight, an odd, settling noise echoed up from the basement. I tried to dismiss it as old house creaks, but then Rex bolted to the basement door. He didn't just bark. He sounded furious, his fur standing on end. Slowly, foolishly, I opened the door and flicked on the stairwell light. Rex's barking dropped into a vicious, guttural growl. Staring down into the pitch-black basement, the memory of the old man dying down there paralyzed me. I slammed the door shut and retreated to my bedroom. Rex followed, but he didn't sleep. He sat at the foot of the bed, intensely staring at the bedroom door all night long. Saturday morning, my unease skyrocketed. I went to the laundry room to do chores and froze. The heavy industrial washing machine had been dragged several feet from the wall, sitting dead in the center of the room. It takes immense physical force to move a unit that heavy, yet I had heard nothing. By Saturday night, my nerves were shredded. At 9:18 p.m., a deafening explosion rattled the house. It sounded like a bomb going off in the driveway. My phone buzzed immediately. A motion alert from the garage camera. The footage showed the garage door wide open, accompanied by blinding flashes of light. Yet, when I bravely peeked into the driveway, it was dead silent. Empty. No smoke, no fireworks, nothing. I barely slept. But at 3:39 a.m., I was violently jolted awake by the sound of someone relentlessly pounding on the front door. Not knocking, pounding. Then, the automated voice of the security system sliced through the dark. "Front door open!" I scrambled to lock my bedroom door and grabbed my phone to call 911. But the screen was completely black. It wouldn't turn on. Through the darkness, I watched in absolute horror as my bedroom doorknob began to violently twist and shake. I broke down screaming, "Go away!" Somehow, my phone suddenly flashed to life. I dialed the police. When they arrived, they found the front door hanging wide open, but the house was empty. Nothing was stolen. They dismissed the driveway flashes as neighborhood kids with fireworks, and incredibly, blamed the heavy, dead-bolted front door blowing open on the summer wind. I packed up Rex and fled to my parents' house until Ryan returned. We moved out shortly after. I still don't know if I was targeted by a flesh and blood intruder or something entirely unexplainable. All I know is I will never go back. I've always been an introvert. While others thrive in crowded clubs, I prefer comic books, video games, and the quiet comfort of my own home. Unfortunately, the home I lived in at the time was right next door to a loud, rowdy bar. One Saturday night, my best friend Isla came over for dinner, playing her usual role as my wingman and trying to give me dating advice. Around 10 p.m., she left. As I watched her drive away, a group of heavily intoxicated women spilled out of the bar next door. One woman, wearing a tattered pink dress, lingered behind her group. She locked eyes with me. I looked over my shoulder, assuming she was looking at someone else, but it was just me. She stared, offered an aggressive wave, and blew a kiss. Uneasy, I forced a polite smile, turned my back, and went inside to play video games. At 1:30 a.m., a gentle knock tapped against my front door. Given my proximity to the bar, drunk wanderers weren't entirely uncommon. I checked the peephole. Empty. 15 minutes later, I checked the window again, just to be safe. My driveway was empty, but the interior dome light of my car was glowing brightly, and the driver's side door was cracked open. Annoyed, assuming a drunk patron was looking for loose change, I marched outside. The car was empty. I locked it up and headed back inside. The moment I locked my front door, it hit me. The air inside my house suddenly smelled strongly of cheap lavender perfume. I tried to convince myself. The scent drifted in from the porch. I went to bed, turned on a movie, and tried to relax. But then, over the audio of the film, I heard it. Pitter-patter, pitter-patter. Rapid, delicate footsteps were sprinting back and forth in the hallway just outside my bedroom. Then came a sound that made my blood run cold. A soft, feminine giggle. I quietly shut my cracked bedroom door, locked it, and dialed 911. The minutes dragged like hours until the house fell completely silent. Armed with my dad's old golf club, I crept out of my room to investigate. I stepped into the kitchen and stopped dead. Standing perfectly still in the dark, staring out the kitchen window, was the blonde woman in the tattered pink dress from the bar. Without turning her head, she whispered, "Hey, buddy, I know you're there." Then, she snapped her head toward me, her eyes wild and charged. I bolted to the bathroom, slammed the door, and locked it. She hammered her fists against the wood, her voice shifting wildly as she begged me to let her in. When the police finally arrived, the house was silent again. I opened the bathroom door to the officers. The woman was gone, having slipped out the open back door. But lying on the floor, directly outside the bathroom, where she had been standing, was a large steak knife, pulled from my kitchen block. The bar owner later confirmed she was a troubled transient who had been harassing customers all night. I still obsess over how she got inside. My only guess is that when I went out to check my car, she was hiding in the shadows of the porch and slipped through my front door behind my back. I escaped with my life, but I will never forget the smell of lavender. I am an interior decorator in my mid-30s, and I have always thrived in solitude. My career is demanding, requiring global travel and constant client meetings, so my home is my absolute sanctuary. Last year, I finally bought my dream home. 6 months later, it became my prison. Because I work primarily from my home office, I spend hours in absolute silence. A few months after moving in, I started hearing a strange noise filtering down from the ceiling. It sounded exactly like a heavy cardboard box being dragged across wooden floorboards. Shuffle, pause, shuffle. At first, I assumed it was a squirrel infestation in the walls. I vividly remembered a similar issue at my childhood home, so I made a mental note to call an exterminator and got back to work. A few nights later, I was working late. By 2 a.m., I finally collapsed into bed. The house was dead quiet. Then, the shuffling started again. But this time, it wasn't a brief sound. It was continuous, deliberate movement coming directly from the ceiling above my bed. I stood up on my mattress and pressed my ear against the drywall. The shuffling stopped. In its place, I heard something that made my stomach drop. Breathing. Deep, rhythmic, human breathing. My bedroom sat directly beneath a small, cramped crawl space. The only access was a pull-down string mechanism in the upstairs hallway ceiling. Terrified, but desperate to prove my own paranoia wrong, I grabbed a chair, yanked the string down, and pulled the ladder open. I climbed up just far enough to poke my head into the pitch-black attic. Between two massive wooden support beams, I saw nothing. I convinced myself I was losing my mind, shut the hatch, and went downstairs to sleep on the living room couch, with the TV on for comfort. Sometime in the early hours of the morning, the sharp creak of a door hinge woke me up. I sprang off the couch. The first floor was clear. I turned on the lights and slowly crept upstairs. The moment I reached the second floor landing, panic seized me. The pull string for the crawl space ladder was dangling freely, swaying slightly back and forth like a pendulum. Someone had just used it. I looked down the hall. My bedroom door, which I meticulously leave wide open, was almost entirely shut. When I pushed it, the hinges let out the exact squeak that had woken me. I flipped the bedroom light on. It looked empty, but as I turned to leave, I noticed a small clump of dried dirt on the floor right beside my bed. I dropped to one knee to examine it. From that low angle, I heard the breathing again. It wasn't coming from the ceiling. It was coming from right beside me. Trembling, I lowered my head and peered under the bed. Staring back at me from the darkness was a filthy, middle-aged man. I screamed, falling backward onto the floor. The man didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He just stared at me with dead eyes and whispered, "Hi, Julie. It's okay." My body felt like it was moving through wet cement. I scrambled backward as he calmly repeated, "It's okay. It's okay," over and over. I threw myself down the stairs, bolted out the front door, jumped into my car, and sped to a 2-4-hour diner, hysterically dialing the police on the way. When the authorities searched the house, the man was gone. But in the crawl space, tucked behind one of the massive wooden beams I had blindly stared into hours earlier, they found a makeshift nest, a small pillow, and several empty water bottles. I stayed in a motel for a month and spent a fortune on security cameras before I ever stepped foot in that house again. The man was never caught. I have a haunting suspicion it was an estranged, highly inappropriate acquaintance from my father's past, but I can't be certain. All I know for sure is that he knew my name. He was living above my head, and he is still out there. Thanks for tuning in to Late Night Stories. If you enjoyed these accounts, leave a like and let me know down in the comments, have you ever experienced anything unexplainable when you were home alone? Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.